What's good, Cubers? It's your boy Matt, and I'm back with another request video. This time we're going to talk about what is and how to build a set cube. But before we get into that, I do want to ask if you like what we're doing over here at Cube4two, if you appreciate our content, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out a lot. Alright guys, let's get started. A set cube is actually a great way for a new cuber to get into the format because it doesn't require a whole lot of updates. A set cube consists only of a card from a particular set or from a particular block of sets. And what it's really meant to do is just replicate the draft experience of that set. So if you enjoyed drafting Guilds of Ravnica, you build a cube around it so that you can draft it forever. Set cubes are static, they don't change over time, which means they don't require a whole lot of like, oh, this new set came out, what cards do I need to add to my cube? And so for some cubers, they like having that static set that they don't have to check on all the time, they don't have to update, fix, check their archetypes. Once it's done and it's built, it's finished, and it's actually kind of like a time machine. It can take you back in time and let you draft one of your favorite sets over again. So, how do you build a set cube? Well, before we do that, we have to pick a set. So let's talk about that. So what I've got here for you is a list of sets that most players tend to agree are some of the best draft sets in Magic's history. In particular, original Innistrad. If you're trying to build a set cube and use a set that you've never played before, I suggest Innistrad. People love those cubes. There's so much flavor in them with the vampires and the werewolves, and so I know some people even like to break them out around Halloween and like draft them for flavor then, but even still, the set's really balanced. It's got mana fixing built into it, a lot of playable archetypes, not as much dirt as some other sets. Original Innistrad is a great set to draft. Furthermore, Rise of the Eldrazi is another great set to draft. Some really iconic cards. It's really balanced, the archetypes are even, the color types are even. Rise of Eldrazi is a great set, and the mana fixing in Khans of Tarkir just can't be beat. That set rewards you for going 3, 4, 5 colors. It's got fetches, it's got tri-tap lands, it's got all the mana fixing you could ever need, which is something that a lot of sets don't actually have built into them. And if you're looking for a fun set to draft, might I suggest Conspiracy, a set that was designed for draft, designed for unique draft experiences and unique draft interactions. But if those don't suit your taste, then I suggest you draft your favorite set, whatever that set is. My family and I have a Guilds of Ravnica cube. My wife loved drafting and sealed for that set. It was a lot of fun for her, and so we put that together so that even though that set is new, 10 years from now we're still going to be able to go back and draft that set that she loves. So whatever set's your favorite, that's also the set to build around. So how do you build a set cube? Well, there is a few different methods, and I'm going to talk about them. And we're going to start with the first one, and that is you get one copy of every card, and you slam them all in a box, and you call it a cube. After all, most cubes are made with just one copy of every card. Now, the pro to this is that this is by far the cheapest way to put together a set cube because you're only acquiring one of each card. But the real con is it doesn't replicate that draft experience that you get sitting down in the store and cracking packs. After all, you open a pack, it's got 11 commons in it, 3 uncommons, and a rare. And if you build your cube this way, you'll have packs that are all commons, you'll have packs that have multiple rares or multiple uncommons. It's not going to be that real retail draft experience that you got in the store, sitting around with your buddies, and you're not going to be able to replicate it the same way. So, this is not my favorite method. I recommend you use one of the next couple, but I did want to mention it just in case you were interested. Method 2 involves getting 3 of every common, 2 of every uncommon, and 1 of each rare and mythic. And the set size will determine how many players this cube can accommodate. So, for example, Innistrad has 107 commons, 67 uncommons, and 75 rares and mythics together. So using the 3-2-1-1 method, we have 530 total cards in our cube. But a pack has 11 commons. So since this set has 107 commons in it, times 3 is 321 commons. Divided by 11, because each pack needs 11 of these, we can make 29 packs, i.e. 3 packs per player. This set supports 9 drafters. Now, The cons of building your cube this way, again, is that there's still not a perfect retail experience. After all, sometimes when you sit down in a store, you open 4 copies of a common, or 5, or none. So how do we fix that? Well, that brings us to method 3. Method 3 basically involves upping the number of commons in your cube to increase draft variant. Now this allows us to better copy the retail experience because there are more commons. We're more likely to see 4, maybe even 5 copies of a single common in a draft. And we can accommodate more drafters. But the major drawback to this is that it becomes just a ton of cards to try and keep up with and store and sort and collect. So that's the only real drawback to this version, is that it's just a lot more collection to manage. If you're looking for perfect retail draft experience, this is probably the way to go. If you're content with a smaller collection that still closely mimics your favorite drafting experience, then I recommend you go method 2. So let's talk about a couple more questions we have when building a set cube. Dirt or no dirt? So normally cube is a dirt or jank-free format, which means that you want to keep basically every card that you open. But retail draft is not. There's jank, there's dirt, there's cards that are unplayable in retail draft. And if you're building a set cube, the question is, do you cut the non-playables out of your cube? It will make your cube stronger, but it will not be a perfect representation of retail draft because retail draft has jank. There was no worse feeling than doing a retail draft or retailed sealed during Guilds of Ravnica and opening Narcomoeba as your rare. I mean, I'm definitely not speaking from personal experience or hurt feelings about opening 2 Narcomoebas in the same sealed pool. I'm just saying that's not personal experience. I'm just saying that could happen and you might have feelings about it even a really long time later. But I digress. Still, the pros are, if you really want a retail draft experience, you have to leave them in. Sometimes players get feel-bad rares, and great drafters can still build decks with or without them. But cube is still a fun and casual format, and so maybe you cut those out to increase the fun of the format. Either of these decisions are right. It's really just more about what's right for you and your drafters. One other thing I'll mention, I haven't done it, but I know some others who have. They'll cut the jank rares out of the cube, but then they'll add in additional copies of the more powerful, good playable rares. And this is a fine thing to do in your cube. I don't really like it because I think it's hard to balance, and like the last thing you need, or one player ending up with 2 copies of a bomb rare because there are extras in the cube, which is not very likely to happen in retail. But I do know players who do it to try and up the power level or up the consistency of their retail cubes. But cubes can be expensive, and retail cubes are normally not so expensive, but still we want to minimize our cost as much as possible. So where do we get these cards? Well, hopefully if it's a retail experience that you enjoyed and you're trying to replicate, you can get most of it out of your collection. I know that a lot of people's gut instinct is to just crack a couple of boxes and fill in all the stuff that they have and then go out and buy the few rares that they're missing. And you can do that, but then you have to realize you're cracking boxes for bulk commons and uncommons. And if you want to buy bulk, eBay is the place to do that. Go to eBay. A lot of people sell bulk commons and uncommons from particular sets all the time, and you can buy them for like 20 bucks, 30 bucks at the most, and you'll have all the commons and uncommons you ever need. And then you can just try and trade or do store credit to pick up the chase rares and mythics. Bulk rares, especially after a set is rotated, are really, really cheap. So you can buy most of the rares on the cheap, trade for the expensive ones, buy the bulk if you need to buy the bulk, if you don't just have it laying around, and then you're good to go. Places like Card Kingdom or your LGS are a great place to swap in cards and gain store credit. TCG Player, obviously everybody knows about that. I'm not going to talk about TCG Player, but I will give you one other little piece of advice. A lot of the times with set cubes or with uncubes or with pauper cubes, the most expensive part of the cube is actually buying all the sleeves to sleeve all the cards and the lands. So I strongly recommend you buy your sleeves in bulk. And I hate to say it, but Amazon is normally the best place to do that. Still, support your local game store, talk to them, maybe they'll cut you a deal on buying your sleeves in bulk. The other suggestion that I'll give you is that you keep all of your cubes in the same color sleeves. That will also save you a lot of money because you won't have sleeves laying around go to waste because you bought 400 sleeves for your 360 card cubes, and what are you going to do with these 40 extra sleeves? So if you sleeve all your cubes in the same color, then that will also save you money in the long run. And I realize that I have to admit I don't necessarily practice what I preach with that, but still, if budget is an issue, always buying the same color sleeves will save you money in the long run. That's going to do it for today, cubers. Down in the comments below, let me know what set you think deserves its own cube, or what cube sets you already have. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna actually go cube or play some Commander myself. So until next time, shuffle up, keep cubing, my friends.